Good afternoon, awesome psychology students. Today we're going to be covering ethics and why ethics in research and doing science the right way is so important. So what is ethical research and what is research ethics? What does that all mean? You hear those words, thrown around a lot. Why respect, responsibility, and roles matter in science? The big question for us is just because we can do something in research doesn't mean we should, right? So we do have guidelines that are set up for ethical research because we want to make sure that everybody that's participating is well taken care of, so to speak. So there's guidelines to ensure people are treated fairly and safely. It applies to psychology, medicine, biology, and more. And it protects participants' rights and well-being. So let's go ahead and take a look at the 5 core ethical principles that we're going to be looking at when we talk about ethics and research. 1, informed consent. 2, protection from harm. 3, the right to withdraw. 4, confidentiality. And 5, debriefing. So let's go ahead and take a look at each of those. So ethics, ethical, what? Yes, okay. So when we're talking about ethics, in order for an experiment to be ethical, it must follow several ethical guidelines to safeguard the participants. So 1, we have informed consent. This is where participants are told the purpose and procedures, and they agree to voluntarily participate in the study. You can't force someone to do a study and participate. They have to voluntarily do it. Confidentiality is another one. Confidentiality is where people participate in an experiment, but they want it to be kept secret. They don't want everybody else knowing that they're participating, especially if it's some sort of possibly drug that's being tested on the market that people aren't aware of. So yeah, confidentiality means your participation is kept secret. No type of release of your information in any way. Number 2, at any time, they can leave the study. So participants, if they agree to do this study, can leave whenever they want. If they're starting to feel uncomfortable, they're not liking the way a study is going, they have the right to leave. You cannot force them to stay in an experiment or a study if they don't feel comfortable. That's the right to withdraw. Okay. Number 3, no physical, emotional harm or discomfort shall come to any of the participants in an experiment. So we can't cause any emotional or physical harm to people that participate in the experiment or a study. That is all bad. We have a code of ethics. The American Psychological Association, the APA, has a guidelines that researchers must follow that safeguards our participants, and that is our code of ethics. Okay. So that also is in there and talks about no physical or emotional harm or discomfort. And finally, debriefing. Participants are told the full purpose after the study. They need to be debriefed. Okay. Could deception happen? Yes. What is deception? So occasionally, researchers will do temporary stress or deceive people, but only when they believe it is essential to justify an end, such as understanding violent behavior or studying mood swings. So if we bring somebody in to do a study and we say, hey, we're going to monitor you and how violent your behavior is, most people are going to change their behavior and not do that. So we're going to deceive them and tell them we're actually testing for one thing, but we're really testing for another, and that's called deception. So if deception takes place, it is really important that you are debriefed after that so that they know the true reason for the study in the first place. So participants must be debriefed after the study or the experiment is over. So how do we know if an experiment is okay to do? Back in the days, they did not have what we call the IRB, or the Institutional Review Board. People just did willy-nilly experiments whenever they wanted, and no safeguarding of people was a thing. So now we have the Institutional Review Board in place, and it's a panel of people that screen research proposals and safeguards participants' well-being. So they look at your research proposal, they go with the APA guidelines, and they look at that and they compare those and they make sure that you're not violating any ethical guidelines before you can do an experiment. All right. And that's how ethics works for us. I hope you enjoyed this little presentation, and I'll see you guys in class.